Welcome to World News Today. Today's story comes from The Guardian. Macron calls Hamas attack's biggest anti-Semitic massacre of our century. Nothing can justify or excuse terrorism at Paris ceremony honoring French victims. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, has called the 7th of October attacks by Hamas on Israel the biggest anti-Semitic massacre of our century, as he led a ceremony paying tribute to the French victims. Macron described the attacks by the Palestinian militant group as barbarism, which is fed by antisemitism and propagates it. He said, "We must fight against hatred. We must not give in to rampant, unbridled antisemitism. Nothing can justify or excuse terrorism." Macron said that in France, a spirit of revenge should never be allowed to grow and nothing should divide us. He said France would work tirelessly to respond to aspirations for peace and security in the Middle East. He said that in the suffering of war, all lives were equal in France's eyes. France would fight every day to bring about the release of the hostages held since the 7th of October, Macron said. The ceremony at the Invalides Memorial Complex in Paris was the first major international memorial event outside Israel since the Hamas attacks 4 months ago. The ceremony remembered the 42 French citizens killed in the attacks and the 3 others still missing, believed to be held hostage. It also honored 4 freed French-Israeli hostages and 6 people injured in the attacks. Portraits of each person were carried by Republican guards. 3 chairs were left empty for the people believed still to be held hostage. Many families were flown in from Israel by France on a special flight. The ceremony was broadcast live on a screen in Tel Aviv. Hamas killed 1,200 people and took about 250 hostages in its attacks, including at a music festival and kibbutzim. Israel then launched a military offensive in the Gaza Strip, in which at least 27,585 Palestinians have been killed and thousands more are feared buried under rubble, the Hamas-run health ministry said. The French presidency said this week that France would also provide an opportunity to remember French citizens killed in the Israeli bombardments of Gaza. "It is obvious that we owe the same emotion and the same dignity to the French victims of the bombings in Gaza, and this tribute will be paid to them at another time," the officials said, without giving a date. The Élysée said the key message of the memorial ceremony for the victims of the 7th of October attacks was the fight against anti-Semitism, and through it, all forms of hatred, racism, and oppression of minorities. Yashay Dan, a relative of one of the French Israelis believed still to be held hostage, Ofer Calderon, said he hoped the ceremony could resonate all around the world, not only in France. He told the Associated Press, "I think from this perspective that France is showing a great gesture by being with those that have suffered an enormous blow." Ayla Yahalomi Luzon, the sister of another French-Israeli presumed hostage, Ohad Yahalomi, said, "We don't need people to hope for us. I have hope, we need help. Ohad is a French citizen, and I ask France to make all efforts to release him and everyone." Tzipora Levy, whose son Yitzhak was killed at the Nova Music Festival and who had traveled to Paris, said the ceremony was symbolic amid the sadness felt by families. She told France Info Television, "All that matters to me for the moment is the release of the hostages." There was controversy over some of the politicians attending the Paris ceremony, with many families of French victims saying they did not want to see figures from Jean-Luc Mélenchon's left-wing party, La France Insoumise, accusing it of failing to sufficiently denounce the 7th of October attacks and term Hamas a terror group. According to protocol, all members of the French Parliament were invited. La France Insoumise coordinator Manuel Bompard and the head of its parliamentary group, Mathilde Panot, attended. Bompard had told French media that he shared the family's pain and sorrow. Panot said she wanted to pay homage to all the French victims of war in the Middle East. Thanks for watching this video. The sources can be found in the description below. Subscribe for more daily news from across the world.